The rain hammered against the diner's windows like desperate fingers clawing for shelter, each drop a tiny plea echoing through the nearly empty restaurant. Marcus wiped down the same table for the third time, his tired eyes scanning the storm outside. At 28, he'd seen enough late-night shifts to recognize desperation when it walked through his door, but nothing had prepared him for the girl who would stumble in at 11:47 p.m., soaked to the bone and trembling with more than just cold. She couldn't have been older than 19, her dark hair plastered against pale cheeks, clutching a backpack that looked like it held everything she owned. Water pooled at her feet as she stood frozen in the doorway, as if crossing the threshold required more courage than she could muster. Marcus had been about to call out the usual "we're closing in 10 minutes, but something in her eyes, a mixture of pride and panic, made the words die in his throat. "Coffee?" he asked instead, his voice gentler than usual. She nodded, sliding into the corner booth like she was trying to disappear into the worn vinyl. Her hands shook as she wrapped them around the steaming mug he brought over, and Marcus noticed the way she inhaled the warmth before taking her first sip. He'd been homeless himself once, 7 years ago, sleeping in his car after losing his job and apartment in the same brutal week. He recognized the signs. The way she nursed that coffee like it was liquid gold, the careful way she rationed the free crackers, the exhausted alertness of someone who'd been running on empty for too long. "Rough night?" Marcus asked, refilling her mug without being asked. She looked up then, really looked at him, and he saw something break behind her eyes. "Every night's been rough lately." Her voice was barely above a whisper, hoarse from cold and unshed tears. "Lost my job 3 weeks ago. Couldn't make rent. Been staying in my car, but it broke down this morning, and the tow took it because I couldn't pay the impound fees." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He'd been 30 that moment when the last safety net disappears and you're falling through empty air with nothing to catch you. "What's your name?" "Sarah." She managed a weak smile. "Sarah Chen." "And before you ask, yes, I've tried the shelters. They're full, or they have waiting lists, or they want documentation I don't have anymore. It's like the system is designed to keep you falling once you start." The diner felt smaller suddenly, the space between them charged with unspoken understanding. Marcus glanced at the clock, 11:55 p.m. His manager had left hours ago, trusting him to lock up. Outside, the storm showed no signs of letting up, and Sarah's shivers had only gotten worse, despite the hot coffee. "I know this might sound crazy," Marcus said, surprising himself with his own words, "but I live just 2 blocks from here. You could crash on my couch tonight, get dry, get warm, figure out your next move in the morning." Sarah's eyes widened. "Yeah, I can't. You don't even know me." "I could be anyone, could be Danger Rosa." "Could be," Marcus agreed, "but you're not. You're just someone who needs help, and I've been where you are." He paused, remembering the stranger who'd let him shower at his house when Marcus was at his lowest point, the small kindness that had meant everything. "Besides, it's just for tonight. Storm's supposed to clear by morning." The walk to his apartment was silent except for the sound of their footsteps splashing through puddles. Marcus lived in a modest 1-bedroom above a used bookstore, the kind of place that smelled like old paper and possibility. As they climbed the narrow stairs, Sarah's backpack caught on the railing, and several items tumbled out: a worn paperback copy of Jane Eyre, a small stuffed elephant with one missing eye, a photograph of a woman who looked like an older version of Sarah. "My mom," Sarah said softly, gathering the photo with reverence. "She died 2 years ago. Cancer." That's when everything started falling apart. Marcus's apartment was small but clean, filled with mismatched furniture and the warm glow of string lights he'd hung to make the place feel less lonely. Sarah stood in the doorway, taking it in with the wonder of someone who hadn't been indoors in weeks. "The couch pulls out," Marcus said, already moving toward the linen closet. "I'll get you some blankets and a number." Sarah's voice was firm. "If I'm staying, I'm not taking your bed. The couch is more than enough, more than I've had in weeks." But Marcus was already shaking his head. "You're the guest. You take the bed. I'll be fine on the couch. I fall asleep there half the time watching Netflix anyway. What followed was perhaps the most polite argument in the history of human kindness. Sarah insisted she couldn't possibly take his bed. Marcus insisted she couldn't possibly sleep on the couch. Back and forth they went, two people who'd been knocked down by life stubbornly trying to outgive each other. Finally, Marcus made an executive decision. While Sarah was in the bathroom changing into the oversized sweats he'd lent her, he pulled the blankets off his bed and made a nest on the floor beside it. When she emerged, towel drying her hair, she found him arranging pillows with military precision. "What are you doing?" she asked, though her expression suggested she already knew. "Compromise," Marcus said simply. "You get the bed, I get the floor. Both of us get a decent night's sleep, and neither of us has to feel guilty about it." Sarah stared at him for a long moment, this stranger who was treating her with more kindness than some people she'd known for years. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" Marcus settled onto his makeshift bed, looking up at her. "7 years ago, I was sleeping in my car in a Walmart parking lot. A guy named Pete noticed me there night after night and offered me his couch. No questions, no judgment, just basic human decency. He probably saved my life, and he never even knew it." "What happened to Pete?" "Lost touch after I got back on my feet. Tried to find him a few years later to thank him properly, but he'd moved. So now I just try to pass it forward when I can." They talked in the darkness for another hour, sharing stories and dreams with the intimacy that sometimes exists between strangers who have nothing left to lose. Sarah told him about her abandoned plans to become a teacher, how she'd been 3 months from graduation when her mother's medical bills consumed everything. Marcus shared his own dreams of opening a bookstore cafe tilde copyright, how he was slowly saving money while working double shifts at the diner. "Maybe when I get back on my feet, I'll be your first customer," Sarah said softly. "I'll hold you to that." Marcus woke at dawn to find Sarah already up, folding the borrowed clothes with military precision. She'd made his bed so carefully it looked like something from a hotel magazine, and the smell of coffee filled the small apartment. "You don't have Toa," he started. "Yes, I do," she said firmly. "You gave me more than a place to sleep. You gave me hope that there are still good people in this world." Over breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast that Sarah insisted on making, they worked out a plan. Marcus knew about the temp agency that was always looking for people, and Sarah had skills they needed. He also knew a woman who rented rooms by the week, nothing fancy but clean and safe. "I'll pay you back," Sarah said as they prepared to leave. "Every dollar you spend on me today, I'll pay you back." Marcus smiled, remembering saying the same words to Pete 7 years earlier. "Just pass it forward someday. That's payment enough." 6 months later, Marcus was working his usual Thursday evening shift when the diner door chimed. He looked up to see Sarah walking in, but this was a different Sarah, confident, well-dressed, with the bright eyes of someone who'd found their footing in the world again. "Coffee?" Marcus asked with a grin. "Actually," Sarah said, sliding a business card across the counter, "I was hoping you might be interested in a proposition." Marcus read the card. "Chen Educational Services, Sarah Chen, founder." His eyebrows shot up. "Turns out there was a market for private tutoring and adult education services," Sarah explained. "I started with 1 student, then 2, then 10. Now I'm hiring teachers and looking for a business partner who understands the value of giving people second chances." Marcus stared at the card, then at Sarah. "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance to build that bookstore cafe tilde copyright you dreamed about. Educational center by day, community gathering space by night. We split it 50-50, partners in making the world a little kinder." The rain had started again outside, and Marcus watched a young man hurry past the window, collar turned up against the storm. Somewhere out there, someone else was having the worst night of their life, wondering if kindness still existed in the world. Marcus looked back at Sarah, at this woman who'd transformed her gratitude into opportunity, her second chance into chance for others. "When do we start?"